And some personal finance along the way, because the reason why the business has taken off or started in the first place was a personal finance issue. Maybe not an issue, but a personal finance topic. Master contract services. So here's what we do. We're a contracting business. Does anybody know what a contracting? If you do contract labor, does anybody know what that means?
I mentioned it last class.
You know what it means?
Yes.
What does that mean? You're a contractor too. What does that mean?
You get hired by other people to do work for them, pretty much.
Yeah. So probably, I would say that everybody in this room has been a contractor at some point in time. Have you ever, for your neighbor or something, hey, I'll mow your lawn for 20 bucks? Has anybody ever done that? You're a contractor then. You basically get hired to do a job for a certain amount of money. And what we do is we paint houses. We do wood rot. You guys can look at my card. It basically tells the stuff that we do. We do a lot of deck staining and repair, which the repair work kind of goes into the wood rot. And wood rot is basically over time, weather, rain, sun, and just, overall wear and tear of being outside. Wood on your house crumbles away, and so we basically come in and replace it, which is lots of times siding. We're not going to get into the structure of homes, but basically just kind of repairing home repairs, essentially. And then we do Christmas lights as well, which is kind of funny. I never thought I'd be doing that for a living, but I have 38 accounts that I do, and we'll talk about that. So I put 38 people's house Christmas lights up. So that's kind of the scope of what we do. I have one essentially full-time employee. His name is Austin. I have 3 basically full-time employees in the summertime, because in the summertime is when we're the busiest. I basically spend, like right now, I have 3 houses to go bid for paint jobs for this summer, and we've already got like 4 or 5 lined up. Got 1 more is still waiting to get back on whether we get the job or not. So we're looking at essentially, we try to get about 8 to 12 houses done per summer. And if you do that right, we're kind of busting it out. We're doing about 1 every week or 2, which is our goal. So we'll call them part-time, but mainly seasonal help. How this happened, okay? We talked about this is personal finance class, right? And entrepreneurship, right? Okay, so the entrepreneurship side is kind of this stuff. This is the, I basically, and if you look at my little bio here thing, I've always had a job, okay? I was one of those kids who, I had a paper route growing up. I started doing a paper route when I was in 2nd grade. Worked at a restaurant, the Windrow Restaurant and Lounge. I was the host. Sat people in bus tables and that sort of stuff all through high school. And with that, we were a small town. We baled hay. We did the occasional. I mowed lawns. I had about 3 or 4 clients that I mowed lawn for. The best one was at A&W. A&W's. Our neighbor was the A&W, and so every time I mowed their lawn, I got $10 worth of free food, which for a 7th grader, I was like, yes, that was the best thing ever. And then they just quit keeping track of how many times I mowed the lawn. I basically walk in there anytime I wanted to and got free food. So that was the best gig, maybe the best job I've ever had. And a lot of the message that I'm going to tell you guys, and hopefully you guys pick up on, is you have to work hard to kind of accomplish your goals. It's one of those things that And I not moved away from teaching, but kind of went a different route because I liked this type of work. I liked the work hard that had to do with this type of stuff. We talk about in finances, so it's kind of what we're getting to. Personal finance. I was a single guy for a long time. I got married 2 years ago to my wife, and in all of this, before I got married to her, I sat down and looked at myself in the mirror and said I needed to get my finances in order if I was going to be able to provide for a family. Okay? So I started my own 5-year plan. And I'm going to put some of my old world history students on the spot. Caitlin, Becky, Mia. You're way on. You were like a half a semester.
Still
Eskina. What was Stalin's 5-year plan? The first 5-year plan. He had 2 of them. Post World War I. You remember? Stalin's 5-year plan is basically after World War I. Russia was trying to gain in industrialization and kind of building themselves up so they could be a world power. Okay, and the first few years of 5-year plans was that he had to get build his infrastructure up. What's infrastructure? You guys have learned all sorts of stuff today. What's the infrastructure? Yeah.
It's like the bureaucracies inside a government.
Okay, so inside a government, like roads and
Roads,
factories.
airports.
Yeah, roads, airports, factories, that sort of thing. You basically get a baseline. I don't know how to spell it. Infrastructure. That's why I paint houses, right? Basically, they had to get a good baseline of a power base, a way to generate you had to kind of get that set up before you had an ability to go out and do their thing. And after the second 5-year plan was when the USSR started to take off, okay, and became a world power and got into World War I and World War II and started to do what they do, okay. So this was so I sat down and put a 5-year plan together. And if you look at my little thing here, talk about debt. And this is something my parents never talked to me about. So this is one of the coolest things that I think you guys get, or people actually talk to you about money. And this is something that I didn't get to look at. So if you look at what is it? Third or fourth little bullet point says started innocently to get out of debt. I had $9,000 in student loans. Looking at myself. Okay, I had a house. Yeah, we'll do that one last. I had a truck that had about $16,000 on it, which was, it's a nice truck, but I probably bought it when I didn't need to. We ended up paying for a wedding, which was about 10 grand. Then we had a kid. Okay, this is kind of working into all of this. But the kid was about 6 grand. So if you add all that together, and then we added, if you look at some of that, I added some bets and stuff in there. But basically, our 2 cars were about 25 grand. And so we were looking at this, and so I started saying to myself, I have to work more. Because when you're a high school teacher in the Catholic school system, you don't make a ton of money, okay? When I was single, I had a house. I could basically pay for, my first paycheck went to the mortgage and then a couple of the bills. And then the second paycheck was the rest of the bills, and then I had about $400 or $500 left at the end to play around with, which meant that a lot of this stuff wasn't getting paid down at all. Okay, it was basically just paying minimum payments on everything and trying to make it work. So I said to myself, screw this. I'm never going to be able to provide for a family. I'm not going to be able to buy a wedding ring. I was dating Beth for a couple years, and I'm like, I gotta buy a ring. I was like, I don't have any money, and so I started doing this stuff. And she's a sweetheart. Ladies, listen to this. I spent $700 on her wedding ring, or on her engagement ring. That's pretty good, isn't it?
It's really good.
It's really good. She goes to me, she's like, and she's a good woman. She goes, I don't want a diamond because I know we don't have a lot of money. And so just give me whatever you want. And so she has a white sapphire and it's wonderful. And she has me. Okay? But in all of this, a part of our relationship was looking at the Brian Bucklin 5-year plan. Okay? And getting this all paid off. And we're going to kind of get to the business part, but this is some real life stuff for you. One of the craziest things that ever happened once you get married is that you get a second income. Oh, geez. So for 67 years, I lived in my house. I could pay for all of the utilities. I could pay for the mortgage. I could pay for my truck. I could pay for my student loans. All of that was good. And then you insert another income, which is like, then I started looking at my books. It was like the best thing in the world. Because she started bringing in, basically, so then basically her whole paycheck got to start going to paying all this stuff off, okay? Because you understand, you got based on all your living expenses. Have you guys done like any living expenses things?
I have them do a budget every single month, so they're starting from where they're at.
Yeah. Okay. So the things that you guys pay for now, your cell phone, all that stuff was paid for by Brian Bucklin's salary, and then input about. She makes about 60 grand. You're working for the University of Kansas Endowment Association, and she brings home about $2,500 a month. So then all of a sudden we started looking at this, like, dude, we can start cranking, okay? So in less than, if you look at this thing, in under 2 years we paid off almost over $50,000, which is to me awesome. We were doing this. You guys have probably done the Dave Ramsey stuff. You at least heard his name. I paint. If you've ever painted, you're just kind of, it's a bit mind-numbing at times, but I listen to the radio a lot, and I listen to a lot of Dave Ramsey stuff. And basically, we're out of debt totally except for our house. Okay, and if you know anything, and you guys appreciate this one of these days when you have maybe a house payment and all this stuff, is that when all you have to do is just worry about that, it's a bit liberating. Beth said the other day, and she wasn't completely on board with just dumping everything in to paying off the debt, because she likes to do her thing. But I basically said, hey, you get an allowance. I gave my wife an allowance. Yeah, she gets $350 a paycheck, and that's to pay for her phone, for her stuff, and she gets about $200 every 2 weeks to be her with. Buy lunch, get a purse, buy a dress, whatever she wants to. So, talking about budgets, we're on it, and it's working, okay? And she said about 2 weeks ago, she goes, Brian, this is awesome. She goes, this is really cool. This is, because she gets $200 a month that you used to go to her car payment is now being built up for the next car. So instead of paying the old car off, now it's just like, we got $2,000 in there already. I was like, that's the plan, that's why it's supposed to work. So now we'll be able to pay for our next vehicle for cash. And it's going to be one of those things that by doing this and kind of setting this 5-year plan up, it has set the rest of our life up, especially for Ruby, going forward, our little daughter, to be able to probably pay for her college out of pocket. That was a lot of the questions that you guys put on your little questions to Mr. Bucklin was how did you pay for college? Because that's staring you in the face right now. This was my student loans, $9 grand. I had $9,000 and I was 32 years old. So do the math on that. I got out of college at 22, so 10 years after I was out of college, I still had a $9,000 student loan debt, which sucks. I got my master's degree, and I paid cash for that, but that was just still sitting there as we went. So it took, when you're talking about college, that was like $250 a month. It just went to student loans, student loans, student loans for 10 years. That went out, and we finally kicked it. That was the first one we did, and that felt awesome. I was like, heck yes, get out of here. But yeah, we'll talk about a little bit about college as we go. But yeah, so then with this, so with the influx of, so like I said, my salary could pay for all of that, and then I decided to go part-time this year. And I kicked half of my salary out the door. So I went from making, and I'll be honest with you, I went from making $42,000 as a teacher at St. James Academy to making $21,000. Okay, and heck, you guys probably part-time jobs might make $21,000 if you're really busting it. So that's where this company really had to start taking off. Okay, and then we'll kind of talk about the rest of this. Talk about the company. Any questions? This hasn't been easy, I'll tell you that. It's been easier because of the second income, but we didn't get to do a whole lot of fun stuff. Yes.
Did you finish that deck that you were working on or whatever?
Funny you ask that. I just texted them the other day. They said there's no hurry on it. We're going to do it in spring break.
Stuck as a winter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, essentially. And I think they were getting low on funds too, so they were like, let's just wait a little bit. So yeah, we're finishing that up. So the business. What does it say here? Okay, so now kind of entrepreneurship side of this. What do we do well? Why do we do this? What's the reasoning why Master's Contract Services works? The number one thing, the why are we successful part. I want to spend a little time there. I'm super honest, okay? I'm the guy that if the job doesn't take me as long or as much that I bid it for, I actually give them a discount. You know, I'll say, you know what, we were only here for, you know, I charge $50 an hour. Okay, I'm doing my wood rot stuff. Okay, if you work this out, if I work 40 hours a week, $50 an hour, that's $100,000 a year. Okay, I don't think that. It'd be nice. But it's part-time, so I make, so I work when we're doing our wood rot stuff. So I charge $50 an hour for wood rot. I charge $35 an hour for painting. And that ends up being like $65,000 a year if I did it all day, every day. So it's a combination of it in between there. So I probably average around $40-some an hour when I'm outside of school here, which ends up being okay. It's about twice as much as being a teacher at St. James, we'll just say that. So basically what, doing our family finances, I went part-time because I wanted to be able to watch Ruby. I watched Ruby this morning, which was fun because my wife travels for work a lot. She's out of town with her job, and so when she leaves, it's basically daddy daycare. So if I don't have, you know, if something comes up, I have to be able to be there right now. And so the contracting gives me a lot of freedom. Like today, we're working on a job in Lee Summit. We have a living room, a foyer, a kitchen, an office, a dining room, 2 bathrooms that we're painting right now. It's a $3,500 job, and we'll get it finished in about 4 or 5 days. Okay, and we make about, I'll end up pulling in about $2 grand of that. Okay, and that's part-time. So I will leave here today and go work in Lee Summit till about 8 or 9 o'clock tonight. Okay, because I didn't have a full day. I always try to get 8 hours in when I can. When we have a babysitter, actually, Mama Welding is watching Ruby right now, and we'll take her over there. My wife will pick her up tonight, and I'll work late. Okay, so on these days, I really have to bust it out. Okay, because otherwise, I have to be able to make up that income that I that I kicked to the curb because I wanted to do this. So we really have to work pretty hard to make this happen. Honesty. So we started talking about honesty. And we won't get too much. High quality craftsmanship. Do a good job is basically what the gig is here. And if you ask any of your parents, probably who are professionals, the number one thing that they would probably say, in their job as well, they have to do a good job. Otherwise, you don't get paid. Especially in this business. If you do a crappy job, and then they tell their neighbor, "Hey, don't hire this guy. He sucks." Okay. And we are all we basically have is our reputation as contractors. And I've never, well, I want to say never advertised. I'll put a picture on Facebook every now and again and say, "Hey, look what we did. We painted this house, we built this deck, da 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 da." That's about the only advertising marketing we do. Otherwise, it's all word of mouth and referrals. So, like we're going to paint Welding's house this summer. Heard that we did it. Said, hey, we're going to be honest. We'll give you a good price. We'll come when we say we're going to be there. We communicate. And I'll say this, communication is one of the biggest things in our world too, is because the contracting world's kind of funny. There's not a lot of college-educated, well-spoken contractors out there. It's like kind of a lot of spitting and cussing and that sort of thing. And then we roll in. The reason why we call it masters is I have my master's degree, and a couple of the guys that worked with me, have their master's degree. One of our little slogans is we're the most overeducated blue-collar guys in town. But we like to do it. But we do a good job. Okay, one of my mottos too, I tell them straight up, I say, we're not leaving until you're happy. Okay, or basically it's a quality assurance that, like when we, like with this house we're doing Lee's Summit right now, we will get done with it, what we say done with it, and then we will go over it again. And my goal is to every time the homeowner walks through and does our final checkup, they go, "Looks good," They're not saying, "Oh yeah, or I saw this," That's when kind of the customer service goes south. Or basically, I want to be the one who goes through with the fine-tooth comb, not the homeowner, because then that basically tells them, you know what, they did a great job. They didn't say they were done, and then all of a sudden have to go back through and all these things need to be redone or whatever. So, kind of it's some pride. It's the want to of their referral, okay? Because again, most of what we do is referrals. So she already told me, Jen Trusty is her name. Jen already told me, it's like, "Brian, you guys are doing great. This is awesome. I'll give your name to anybody who talks to me about home improvement stuff." I'm like, "Thank you." She's like, she used to be a mortgage banker. She's like, "I'll even take you around to some of my clients that I used to have who are realtors and mortgage people and who live in the real estate world and are doing this stuff." I'm like, "I'm already busy enough." It's like we might expand next year a little bit more, but we're already looking. All right. This is a half-horse shot. I mean, things. But yeah, we basically, try to do a very good job. I mean, you should do that in life, right? Try to do a good job at whatever you do. Not for, the $2,000, but I think it's kind of your job as a person, as a human being. Do the right thing all the time. So yeah, we take a lot of pride in what our craftsmanship ends up being there. Why are we successful? Smile and act like you enjoy your work. It sucks to paint sometimes. It's 98 degrees out in the summer, and you've been working on the house for a week, and it keeps giving you surprises. And I'm a sweater. I sweat through my shirt about the first 5 minutes I'm there, and it's not much fun. And then they come out and say, how's it going? Great. Hey, we're having a good time out here. You know, we sell it a little bit. I tell all the guys at work, if they ever offer you a glass of water, take it. You know, if they want to give you some cookies, eat them. Because it's a hospitality thing. People like, if you ever just say, no, I'm good, and then just keep working, all of a sudden you become just a worker man in their life and not a person. And they become someone who we just dismissed as someone who is extending some hospitality. So we always take what people want to give us. I mean, we're providing the service, but it's kind of funny how much people will give when you act like a person with that. So it's almost at the end of the job when they got to write me a check, and then they're giving me, you know, a Coke or a beer. Shoot, some of those days they're like, hey, when are you gonna drink some beer, right? Those are the best days. So not tell him off the ladder, okay? But it's reality. Oh, your dad's but yeah, smiling, giving the customer service when it comes down to when it's time to get paid. You've built a relationship with them, and then lots of times it's just kind of, hey, thanks. Here's your money. Have a good day, and that's basically the end of it. And usually, so far, in 4 years of doing this pretty hard and heavy, there's been maybe one time that the person was really like, I'm really kind of, you know, this number that we talked about, maybe one time, and probably done 50, 60 big jobs of this. So our percentages are pretty good with customer satisfaction. Couple more things, then we'll have some, well, if you have questions, anytime, fire away. Do what we say you're going to do in a timely manner. People want to see you do it quickly and do it well, okay? Like I said, we started this job in Lee Summit on Thursday of last week, and we'll be done tomorrow. In and out, and I don't have to work the rest of the week, essentially, if I don't want to. My goal is to make $1,000 a week. Okay, $1,000 a week. If I pull in $2 grand in 5 days, guess what I get to do if I don't want to? I don't have to go to work, and I can watch Ruby for a day. Okay, and then all of a sudden we get to balance life a little bit. Why else are we successful? We communicate. We email a lot, text message. We left the job. I worked until about 6 o'clock on Saturday, this past Saturday, because I was at sophomore retreat. So I didn't get to work on Thursday and Friday. My guy was working. So I told her, hey, I'm going to be there all day Saturday. She bought us lunch, which was great. You know, she extended some hospitality. But I texted her, saying, hey, Austin will be back on Monday. I'll be there at about 2 o'clock on Monday too, because I have to talk to this entrepreneurship class, have the opportunity to talk to the entrepreneurship class. But then I'm going to put a late date. Okay, so I made sure she was okay with me working till 7, 8 o'clock tonight. So it was a communication thing. All of a sudden, you know, they're making supper. They're like, he's still here. That gets a little weird, okay, because you're in someone's house and you're doing work, and it's kind of like, what's going on? So we try to be overly communicative on when we're going to be there. Stick to what you're good at. We've had some interesting conversations with clients. Hey, do you do this? Do you do this? Do you do this? Do you do plumbing? You know, and I was like, and people will hire you for stuff, I've learned, if they trust you. It's kind of weird. I replaced a garbage disposal for a lady who I did a paint job for. She's like, can you do this? I'm like, I've never done one before. And again, honesty, I go, I'll be honest, never touched a garbage disposal in my life. And I'm going to charge you $50 an hour to do it. She's like, that sounds reasonable. I'm like, so I just told you, I've never done this before, I'm gonna have to figure it out as I go, and you're still gonna pay me $50 an hour to do it. And I said, I told her I won't charge her more than $100. I did say that. But I got it done in about a half hour. It was in and out. And so I charged her whatever, you know, I charged her like $30 because I didn't work the full hour. And so she thanked me for being honest when it comes to that. And she was watching me do it, so she's like, hey, you charged me for 50 and you're only here for half, you know, that sort of thing. So again, the honesty side of that, I'll have her business for a long, long time. Okay. Yeah, we kind of talked about the marketing and word of mouth referral stuff. Any questions? I'm kind of moving. Yes, sir.
Where'd you get the knowledge to like do wood rot repair?
Yeah. My brother-in-law is a shop teacher, and he built their own house. A handy guy, and he looks at me and he goes, "How are you doing this?" Because my dad was a radio announcer. My mom is a high school secretary. I mean, we didn't grow up doing this. It all started essentially with my own house. The reason why I started buying up, I think Beer Bomb's question was, what were startup costs, right? The reason why I started this is because I needed to paint my own house, like 4 and 5 years ago. And so I bought a paint sprayer because I'm cheap. I'm like, I can figure this out. And so I'm like, I'll buy the equipment I need and then I'll have it in case something, you know, something comes of this. And so I bought a paint sprayer, and you know, I already had ladders because I've been doing this. Actually, Coach Muhlenberger and I have done this for almost 10 years now. So I had all the ladders I needed, and we'll kind of go over that in a little bit. And so I basically started doing it on my own house. Again, the trust factor. The first few jobs I did, when people walked me up to a window whose, you know, the windowsill was completely rotted out, and you know, can you do that? Yeah, we got that. I've never done it before, but I'll figure. I watch a lot of YouTube videos. But now, you know, 4 years later, it's like, oh yeah, I can get that done, and that'll be about an hour. You know, and now I can say, you know, so my $50 an hour, it's about $100 a window. Is basically what it comes down to. It's like, oh yeah, that one's gonna take a little bit longer because we got to take all the trim off, And so basically, I can now, after doing it for a long time, I pretty much can know right away what's going on. But the first time, and the crazy thing was that people were paying me to learn, and I didn't charge them that much too. The first few jobs I did, I told them, hey, this is start a business. You know, we're gonna get the job done. We're gonna do a good job. We're not leaving until you're happy. But yeah, I've never done that before. The honesty side of it really kicked in. And now, if I walk up to a regular old house in Johnson County, there's probably not a lot that I haven't done at this point in time. Replacing and fixing gutters, fascia boards, soffits, you know, redoing siding. Shoot, we had a picture. I have a picture. We tore a bunch of siding off this lady's house just in like October, and behind it, all of the underlayment sheeting was all rotten, so we had to tear all of it off and replace all of the sheeting. It ended up taking about another day and a half longer than we told her, which ended up being a $600 bill just in labor. And she's like, okay, because, you know, I overly communicate, like, you want me to do this? You know, I always tell her, it's like, tell my people, it's not a good thing when I'm ringing your doorbell, okay? It's like, if I'm ringing your doorbell, that means something's wrong, for the most part. And so I had to ring her doorbell probably like 3 or 4 times on that job, and she was like, you know what, let's get it done. just add it to the bill. And we did a good job, and we took it down. And it's a yellow house. It's right on, right behind Hen House on 87th and Lackman. It's yellow. I don't like painting yellow. Yellow. But yeah, if you look at that house, we probably tore more stuff and put stuff on that house than any house that we've ever done. And we still have one little section to paint, then we're done. It was almost a $9,000 job. So that's a nice little page. Yeah.
How do you figure like the material expenses and stuff like that into your?
Right. So here's how we do a bid. Maybe I'll send, well, I could pull a bid sheet up, maybe if we have some time at the end. But basically, the aspects to what we do is the materials, labor, and then what I call job costs. It's all those. It's like when you look at your memory on your iPhone and it just has that little miscellaneous thing. You know, that's like half of your memory. That's the job costs. So job costs are gas, insurance, and so basically I just usually do a flat rate for that. So materials, I basically look at it and say, okay, that's gotta go, this gotta go, you know, all this stuff. Materials and paint. And usually this is about a quarter of the bid. Quarter of the bid. Usually labor is about the other 75% of it. So if I'm doing just a regular house in Johnson County, say 87th and Lackman, somewhere around Holy Trinity area, probably looking at about a $4,000 to $5,000 house. Okay. A quarter of that, we'll just say 4,000 for easy. 4,000, say 1,000 of that is paint and whatever else has to happen. And then about $3,000 of that will go to labor, which labor is where we make our money. I don't do all this by myself, so I try to keep so here for your entrepreneurship people, you know, I've struggled with how much to pay my work. I'm a generous guy. I buy lunch pretty much, well, I buy lunch every Friday for my crew. And probably 1 or 2 days a week on top of that, I'll buy them lunch. But how much do I pay them? Okay, that balance between how much money do I make and how much money should I pay people? Maybe the hardest thing, I don't know. Because you got to keep your employees happy. Otherwise they don't come to work, or they're pissed off when they get to work. Or, you know, I make a lot of money and have to do all the work. Which, like I said, Austin's working right now, and you know he makes $16 an hour painting. So you work an 8-hour day. How much money do you make? What's 8 times 60? About $100. It ends up being about $100 a day. And you know, for a laborer, that's not bad money for a paint job. But then you get, like in the summertime when I got 4 guys working, I'm paying almost, in a week's time, I'll pay almost $2,000 out in wages, which that's not much fun. I do through I got a payroll service that does my paychecks and does all the taxes and all that stuff, because I'm not good at that. I'm a PE guy, right, for a reason. Okay, not the numbers aren't my strong suit, and so they do that. But shoot, when I start every 2 weeks paying out almost $4,000 in labor, like, ugh. The balance between productivity and quality needs to be really pretty good. This last summer was the worst summer that we have had in 4 years. Reason being, it rained and rained and rained and rained in June. I don't know if you guys remember this at all. I mean, how many baseball games got canceled? I mean, there were a lot of baseball games canceled in May and June. And then Ruby was born. And so I had a kid in June 24th. And so that was so basically the first part of June was washed out, and then the second part of June was daddy time. And so essentially 5 weeks of the summer, I didn't hardly work at all. And so I basically had to pay my crew to do the jobs, which hurt Big Daddy Buck's wallet, okay? Especially when the kid costs $6,000 to do. You can talk about insurance and all that stuff another day, I'm sure, but it was a hard summer just for that stuff. And then, once the summer was over, I basically said, I'm doing everything by myself for about the next 3 months. And that's what happened. I basically painted one whole house all by myself. And when you're up on ladders all day long, it's not that much fun when you're up there leaning around and nobody's standing on the bottom. I say a lot of Hail Marys on ladders. Yeah, I basically did 2 or 3 jobs just all by myself so that I could get back over the hump. Getting paid, a few jobs like this to a point where my bank account, my master's contract services bank account was next to nothing at the end of the summer, and built it back up to a place where we were, happy with it. Okay. So I don't know, we started with this question, materials and that sort of stuff, but this is kind of how all of this works out once the job's done. We try to do a house in a week or a week and a half's time. If we can get in and out, 10 days is kind of our goal. Big or small, however big or small the job is. Because if we can do that, in the basically 2.5 months time that I got my guys in the summertime, it's about 70 days total. That's about 7 houses. Okay, if we start on a job on Monday and can get it done by Friday, heck yes. And I haven't probably, Beth said we've been going together for a few years now, and she goes, I don't know if you've ever not worked on a weekend. Saturdays I worked 9 hours on this past Saturday. I don't work on Sundays usually. I give myself a 4-hour time limit if I gotta go do something on Sunday. And lots of times I do my bids and stuff on Sunday because I have a little extra time and the homeowners are usually home. So, some of your questions were, how has the transition been from not teaching all day to now doing this? It's been interesting. Okay, I call it the new normal. Where working all day Saturday is a new normal for us because Beth watches Ruby. I go out after school lots of times. You see my truck out there, Ford F-150 silver, it's got crap in it every day. It's got ladders on it. There's the bed of it is full of, it's got air compressor. I got a baby crib in there right now. We just finished a job up for Scott Sharp the other day. They're flipping a house. Got that done, and basically I have all of my interior painting supplies in there. A bunch of garbage that I haven't cleaned out yet. But yeah, we're moving, man. I would say hours per week with teaching, probably looking at, I don't know, I'd say 50 to 60 hours a week right now. And that's, not counting the 3 o'clock in the morning checklist that we're going through on what do we have to do for this job. We're basically finishing up 3 jobs right now. So this Lee Summit one, the Sharp flip, and actually this one on 87th Street that we started a while back, but it's been, because of the winter and that sort of stuff, has been tough. We're looking at $3,000 here, about $6,000 there, and about $8,500 there. So Big Daddy Buck's bank account, actually this is 4, because we already got the first half of that, and that'll be about 3, because we already got the first half of that. 3, 6. So in the next probably week and a half, there'll be $10,000 coming in. So when we started looking at, well, what's the trade-off between teaching and working, doing this stuff, kind of proofs in the pudding right there. Where I gave up 20 grand to do this, and then essentially in 3 paychecks, I'll make at least half of it back. When we talk about Christmas lights is where we make the most money. So if you guys want some Christmas lights, let me know. We make about $200 an hour doing these. This ain't bad. Okay, so for 38, the average house will probably make about $300. Let me do the math on that real quick. What's 38 times 300?
114, 114,
What is it?
114. Did you say 3,800?
38. We have
Okay,
38
11,400.
What is it?
11,400.
Takes about 40 hours of work to do, essentially. There's houses that we can be in and out of in about 20 minutes. There's some houses, there's one house right on K7. If you guys go up and down K7, there's a big white house right in between 47th Street and Johnson Drive. It's up on the hill. We do that one. It's about a $1,200 house that we do, which is Christmas lights. Good God, what do people do? That's a whole paycheck. That's a whole teaching paycheck for Christmas lights. And but yeah, we do pretty well there. So if you look at that, I don't make all of this. I mean, that's the gross. But you take that times, 3 jobs that we just finished in the last month and a half. Essentially, the teaching salary has been recouped. And so then, basically, everything from here on out is a little bit of butter. Okay, so I kind of will set my income according to the school year. So essentially, from the start of school, I've made my money back, and then basically from here on out, it'll be profit, which is kind of nice. Yes, sir.
You think you'll ever do masters full time?
Good question. I don't know. I like teaching. I like you guys. I'm here. I like coaching. That's one of the biggest reasons why I got into teaching to start with, was to do that. So I'll probably do this at least for 1 more year. Do the part-time thing and see where we're at. There's a possibility. I talked to, the business model that we've got going is basically, so my employees in the summertime are Connor Moore. You guys know Connor. Mr. Keith. Trey Keith. I don't think he's going to work for us this summer. He's got his own little business going. Matt Sostrich. He's a good worker, and all of this. I don't really care, what you do outside. When those guys show up, they bust it out, and they're good. They do a really good job. So basically, what we're working on is now, we'll start phasing some more younger guys in. Where now Mr. Keith, basically, I tell Mr. Keith, okay, you've got this house, and I'll give you Matt Sostrich. Go. And so they paint it, and I just pay them a flat fee now. Where we've gotten to the point where they're good enough at doing it, and we're busy enough that I don't have to be, I really can't be on the job all the time. And so they go do a house, then I prep the next house with Connor, because he's gotten pretty good at doing the wood rot stuff too. And we get it all set up and ready, and then the other guys come and start painting it. Okay, so that towards the end of the summer, last summer, we got to a point where we did about 2 houses at the end of the summer like this. Like I said, last summer was a bad year. But now we're getting to the point where if those guys, if we do that model and then add a couple more workers that are worth the dang, and now Austin's with us too, so we got 4 good guys, not including myself, so 5 total. So we knock those out, say, hey, you guys do this, we're gonna be over here, we can be working on 2 jobs at a time. And now we start looking at this and go, take that times 2. And if we start doing that, then you might not see Mr. Bucklin around that much. Okay? So, but yeah, we got to get to a point where our productivity is high along with our amount of jobs that we do. Because it's contract work, you never know when the work's gonna run out too. Like, baseball season starts, I've told Austin, I go, hey, you might wanna find a part-time job. You know, go work at Quick Trip for the next 3 months, because I don't know if because my after-school stuff, I mean, that's what we practice on Saturdays, right? You know, when all my Saturdays are gonna be gone. My after-school time that I used to do, you know, 2 or 3 times a week, gone, okay? So the springtime is our slowest time of the year, and it gets a little tougher there. But our summertime, busy. Other questions? How much, we got a half hour? Okay, we're doing great. Stand up. You guys have been sitting for a while.
Wait.
While you're standing up, who's got jobs in here? Who works? Jack Charleston, what do you do?
I'm a busboy.
Where at?
A restaurant on Plaza.
Yeah, what one?
McClellan.
Oh, that's probably good money.
That's all.
Well, that's probably good. What else? Who else got jobs? Andrew Lee, what do you, oh, you work at Sombrero. Yeah. Storm, what do you do?
Same thing as him.
Oh, who's better?
Oh, me,
Oh, yeah.
by far.
Yeah.
I can see that. You're
Storm, are you a
nicer.
busboy?
Paul Cass works at Price Chopper.
Storm, are you a
Price Chopper.
How much are you making now?
Who's got the highest paying job here? Herb, what do you do? Oh, umpire's a good job for, what do you make, about 20 bucks an hour? You don't think you make 20 bucks an hour?
I make 30.
Oh yeah, he does. He does make the most.
I'm on lawns.
Mowing lawns?
Yeah.
There you go, contract.
That's a bad service.
But, he probably works.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't-
your 30 bucks an hour is only once every 2 weeks. So, yeah.
I work 8 hours a week.
I do that.
Oh, do you?
I'm a farmer.
Nice. All right, sit down.
No, I do it in the bathroom.
Smirk. Tell your dude to email me that. I'm gonna email him on my regular, on my Yahoo.
He might not want it. I'll email him for
Okay. So we got
Jackson, sit down.
here we go. So we got I'll go for about 15 more minutes, and then we'll kind of start talking about some of your guys' questions and kind of my experience with college and all that sort of stuff. Another aspect of what we do is there's rental properties. Okay, if you look at the last sheet there, or at the bottom of the second sheet, and top of the third sheet, we bought a rental property in Atchison, which basically all of this money. Now we'll talk about Dave Ramsey for a second. Step 1 in the Dave Ramsey plan is, Coach Cecilio, what's number 1?
Oh, get an emergency fund?
Emergency fund. What's emergency fund?
It's for any sort of, you lose your job, you get a speeding ticket, you get a car accident, living expenses in case life happens.
Gotcha. So he recommends $1,000. When we were going through this, kind of getting all our stuff knocked out, we had about $4 to $5 grand, just because we were a married couple and we were like, yeah, screw it. We got a house. If something goes funky in the house, $1,000 goes really fast. If the water heater goes or something like that, so we bumped that up a little bit. What's number 2, Coach?
Pay down all your debt?
Yeah, it's called the debt snowball. Okay, and in our stuff, we paid about 50 grand off in about 18 months or so. Which I, in all of this, think we did a really good job. Number 3, and this is where we're at right now. This is Brian Bucklin, Team Bucklin. We are in the, what's this one? This is like the emergency fund number 2, isn't it? Okay. So basically now this is going to sit in a checking account forever. And we're going to get 20 grand in here. Okay? 20K. Right now, it's at, I looked at it this morning, we got $7,100 in there. And that's basically, once we got all of our stuff paid for, this was probably about 4 months ago. So this is in 4 months' time, we've saved almost 7 grand. And so the reason why I say this is this, once this gets up to 20K, then the next aspect of our business takes off. Okay, this is where we start to do the next phase of master's contract services. This will be, if my calculations are correct, by about July, we'll be up to 20 grand. Especially if we have a good summer peak, which we should. Okay, and so then the plan kind of stops for now with the Dave Ramsey stuff, and then I do my weird stuff. Okay, but with number 4, if I said number 4 is kind of our investments, and in a roundabout way, what we're doing is investing. Okay, Mr. Webker, last time I talked, he said, this guy's going to be a millionaire someday. And I started looking at it, and I'm like, he's exactly right. Teacher turned millionaire. Write it down right now. And the only reason, or the main reason why is, and I will put a plug in for this right now, is a Roth IRA. Have you guys talked about this? Yeah. Okay, so here's a real life example of a Roth IRA. When I graduated from college, one of my guys I played ball with, he worked for ING, which is now Voya. Right? It's a real thing and people use it. So Voya, I put in a Roth. I put $275 a month in for the last 11 years of my life. And now that we're in a situation where we're pretty financially sound, we've bumped it up to $358 a month, which is the maximum amount that you can put into your Roth for contributions. There's about $50,000 in there right now, and I did a projection on it. If it makes 8%, it's $1.3 million. If it makes 9%, it's like 1.45, and if it does really well, it's like 1.6, like 10%. Million. I was like, oh. That's by the time I'm 58 or 59 and a half, I can get into that. I will not be teaching at 59 and a half, okay? Because we're going to be in pretty good shape, and that's just with the Roth. Okay, so I know Mr. Rockford does a little unit on compound interest and that sort of thing. Have you guys talked about that in your personal finance stuff? This is one of the craziest things in life. But you had to commit to it. It was $275 a month when I didn't really have a lot of money. And I said, you know what, I want to retire someday. And by doing this contracting stuff, you know, I've got a bad back anyway, and I'm not gonna be painting houses forever. It's better money than teaching, but I get older quicker. And so basically we made a decision that we're going to completely max out our Roth so that we can, be in that situation. And that's just me. That's not counting anything my wife has done or will get from KU Endowment, which they have a great benefit package as well. So when you said that, I was like, I wonder. So I did the projections and we bumped it up so that we'll be millionaires someday. How about that? But we didn't, and so this was 11 years of just kind of dumping into it when I didn't have a lot of money. And now we're at the point where we're not living comfortably, but we're getting to the point where we got over the hump here. where we got to pay ourselves a lot more than we had to pay other people, which is a good feeling to have. Okay? So if Coach Webster starts talking about your Roths and stuff like that, listen to him. You guys can contribute, everybody that raised your hand. If you have a job that's taxable income, you can put into your Roth as much as you made, I think. Is that right? Or at least as much as you were taxed on.
My understanding, and please correct me, is single people can put in $5,500 per year.
Mhm. But I don't think, if you don't make that much, they don't. I think it's all dependent on income. If you only make so much, I think that's the rule. If you're under 18, at least.
Okay, I'll look it up
I'm not
real
even
quick.
making that up.
I read the other day too, if you're 15 years old, your parents can put up to $1,000 in there for you. You don't need any reportable income, but up to
Okay, there you
$1,000.
go. But if you make over and above that as taxable income, then you can put more into that. So you guys can start right now. Okay? Do the projections on that. If you start when you're 16, I started when I was 22. You know, they say what the rule of 7, right, Coach Webster? Every 7 years, your money should double.
Right.
Essentially, if you start now, you know, you start making your money after, you know, when you get your first job when you're 22, 23, and you've already had it in there cranking for 7 years. You know, your $1,000 to $2,000 all of a sudden turns into 4 to 6. 4 to 6 turns into 10 to 12, and 10 to 12 to 24, and all of a sudden you guys are talking to the high school entrepreneurship. So I say, I'm a freaking genius, you know. Because you started young. Okay, so in all of this, you know, my parents never talked to me about this stuff. And I'm glad for the opportunity. Okay, but this can be a good friend to you. Okay, and it has been and will be for us.
Okay, I looked it up on rothira.com rules, and it says if your earned income is less than your eligible contribution amount, your maximum, the most you could contribute to the Roth is $3,000 instead of the standard $5,500.
Yeah.
Even so, that means if you made $1,000, but if you want to put in up to $3,000, you can.
Yeah. So $3,000. So every penny you guys probably make would have to go to that if you wanted to get the $3,000. I don't know how much you guys are making. I know Cormac Schmidt probably pays. You have to work a lot of hours to get up to $3,000.
Whatever.
Too many. But yeah, so anyway, so number 4 here is the investment side. Okay, and this is where we get into our rental properties. We bought 401 North 7th Street in Atchison, Kansas. It's a two-unit place. It's got a 1-bedroom on the bottom. It's got a 2-bedroom on top. And we'll talk about this for a minute. And this is kind of the fun part for me, where the painting and that stuff is kind of my job, but this stuff is going to pay for Ruby's college, essentially. So 401 North 7th. The 1-bedroom, I get $450 for it. 2-bedroom, I get $550 for it. What's $450 plus $550? $1,000 a month. Okay, $1,000 a month. Yep. The mortgage. Somebody tell me what a mortgage is. We don't know this. This is real life stuff. So a mortgage, all right. So a mortgage is a combination of things. Well, in a roundabout way. It's basically what you pay for the house. Okay? So it's basically your house payment. And inside of this, most times, they have what they call an escrow account, which this is something that you guys, my wife doesn't even know what an escrow account is. And in that is taxes, insurance. It's kind of like my bid sheet, kind of the job costs of owning a place. Okay, so the mortgage is all of this. So the mortgage payment per month is $387. So if we do the math here, we basically say it's about $600 a month net, which isn't bad for a rental, I would say. I don't know, we're happy with it for now, as long as my renters pay. That's the trick in all this. We bought it for $38,000, which isn't the nicest place in the world, but Mr. Fix It over here got it up to snuff and it's looking good. We put $13,000 down on it, and so when we start looking at this stuff, yeah, we're making money, but essentially everything that I make in the master's account gets reinvested at this point in time, because with my wife's income and my teaching salary, we're knocking this out with just that. Okay, we're doing that with just our take-home income from our 9-to-5 job. So all the extra money that we make in the master's side of it is going to this stuff. Okay, we will have, so we put $13,000 down, so the loan ended up being $26,000. We'll have this paid off by the end of the year. Essentially, we bought it last spring. No. First renters were in August, so we'll have this paid off by the end of the year. Okay, and then we'll have essentially probably about a $50,000 property making $1,000 a month starting 2017. And if you look at the little projection at the end of the page there, we'd like to have, my goal is to have 5 to 7 paid-for houses by the time I'm 45. Because if that happens, I will probably not be teaching. I'll say that right now. Because my income from just the rentals alone will equal or exceed what I make teaching. Unless I really want to teach, which I might. We'll see. That's 10 years from now. But it's completely attainable. Because then all of a sudden, this is the stuff I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning thinking about. What's 1,000 times 12? Huh? 12,000. That's a pretty easy one. Okay, so you take 12,000 and then you add all of the paint jobs that you do in the summertime that you're going to be reinvesting, which will end up probably being just this summer about $20,000. That's the projection at this point in time. So at the end of, essentially the end of each year, we're looking at, we'll have in the range of around $30,000 each year to either put down on another house or buy a crappy house for cash. Okay, a $30,000 house is a crappy house. Okay, but if you fix it up a little bit, get some renters in there that actually have a bank account, and money goes in and out of it, you can make money doing that. And then you say, then if you just go say 5 houses, and you get $1,000 per, what's 5 times 1,000? $5,000 a month. What's 5,000 times 12? $60,000. So basically, you're looking at a place where if you wanted to reinvest all the money that what you got to this point, you can essentially buy a house for cash every year. For cash, which is ridiculous to think about now. I mean, we're at a point where we got one, and but it'll be paid off at the end of the year. And then we have the capital. I mean, basically, I could walk into any bank and say, "Hey, we have paid off $50,000 rental property," and they'll lend us money on that because we have equity built. I don't know if you talk about equity, but it's one of those confusing words when you're 17, I think. And then we get going, and then all of a sudden I look at Ruby by the time she's 18 in 2000, what's 18 plus 16? 24. So in 2034, when Ruby's getting ready to go to college, I go, Here you go. I got $60,000 in rental property coming in, and by then it might be $60,000 a year, okay, to go to college. Who knows? So basically, we're doing this so that she doesn't have to pay for college. We'll do some investing along the way, I'm sure, with some of this, but at this point in time where I'm standing right now, that's kind of the plan. And with this, the crazy part about this too is, with this, if we start buying, I mean, we're gonna buy cheaper houses, but, you know, if we can buy them with cash, and then we don't have to pay any mortgage stuff on it, then we're looking at, you know, some big time stuff, and being basically a millionaire outside of the Roth, which would be real cool. Then I'll have the next wing of the school named after me. Not really. I don't have that much scratch. I don't know. We're gonna be okay though. It's kind of fun to think about. I'll say this too. Giving is an important part of this as well. We talk about tithing in the church. It's kind of the thing for this. When I was doing it on my own, didn't give hardly at all because I didn't have much to give at all. I just sent out an email the other day to the staff. I said, hey, it's Lent as part of my almsgiving. Every bid that I nail down during Lent, I'm going to give 5% to the building project here for the new classrooms. I don't know if you guys know about that yet. We're getting new classrooms in the wrestling room, okay, for all the freshmen that are coming in. But we have to raise the money for it. So it's been cool that because we have some expendable income now. Here we go. I know that's news. I'm sorry. I probably shouldn't have said it, but we get to give a little bit more, which is kind of cool. My wife said give her a shoe. If she had $2, she can give them to you, and then probably buy you something on the side. She's very generous, but I told her, like, hey, before we get to the point where we're okay ourselves, it's hard to give too much. Okay, we got 10 minutes left. What do we have questions about any of this? It's kind of a lot, but I don't know. It makes sense in my head.
Are they making classrooms out of the whole room or just?
I think the whole rest. Okay, yeah.
With like renting a house, how do you have a emergency fund just in case someone like crashes the house or something like that?
Good question. I have, it's not a lot. We have our, we run this stuff kind of under that as well. We don't have a bunch filled up. I have $500 in my PayPal account. And I've got a few $1,000 always in my master's account, and then we have our savings. So, and we basically have already done all the big stuff. We had to do $500 worth of plumbing. I had to patch up a couple of walls. We had to buy new appliances for it. But all the big stuff is pretty much done now. So, but yes, we do have an emergency fund for that stuff, but it's kind of worked into the rest of our business expenses. Yeah.
Are you hiring?
Not anymore. I've got my crew set for the summer, and like I said, we're gonna work into the slow time of the year with baseball coming up. I hope to have enough job or work to keep Austin busy. Because I have a responsibility to my employees too. That's one of the hardest things I've had to start to work on, is having a full-time employee, where I'm like, gosh almighty, he's counting on the income that we bring in to pay his bills. You know, it's not just fun money for, you know, like Mr. Keith, he has a job, but the work that he does for me is extra, you know, but Austin, his main source of income, or his only source of income, is me. And so when I started doing the math on that, I was like, geez, that's a large responsibility just to make sure work keeps coming in with all that. But no, I'm not hiring right now. Yeah. Yeah.
Have you thought about an exit strategy for when you want to stop master's contracting?
Because people will keep asking me, I'm sure. You know, hey, we still building houses. The exit strategy is, I would think I would just manage it and not work. I mean, I want to get 10 years from now, hopefully I'm never on a ladder again. That's one of my goals, to not be on a ladder in 10 years. I'd be 45 years old. See the old crusty guy hopping up on the ladder, it's like, geez, he beats, that guy needs to get a job, you know? I don't want to be that guy, okay? I want to be the guy standing on the ground going, hey, little Weldon, get up there, boy. You know, it's like, you did it wrong, okay? I want to be that guy, okay? I'll be the, if that's not an exit strategy, it's more of a, Mr. Bucklin. Oh, it's Mr. Bucklin. Who are you looking for? Yep, I'm here to the office. Jack Charlton, to the office.
There it is. See ya. We knew we'd happen one of these days.
All right, I'm so happy this is on tape.
R.I.P. Jack.
He is the exit strategy. I don't know.
He's done.
I mean, we're into the point of I'm in so much building mode right now, and kind of investment mode that 10 years from now, if all this on paper works out, which who knows if it will. But we have enough work right now, especially this summer, to make it work, which is kind of fun and scary. And I know that's a lot. Every job I get is going to be 40 to 50 hours worth of work and headache and a paycheck, but it's still got to do the work. We got to keep the quality up with trying to do it fast, and hiring new people. Hiring new people is scary to me because I know when I did it myself, it was done right and good. And now trying to make sure that everybody who's on the squad does it as well and it's right. That's my biggest headache and thing that I'm scared of at this point in time. The whole leadership and management, yeah.
Practical question for every person in this room. If one of the teens in here wanted to create their own business of some kind, what would be maybe first 2-3 steps?
Buy materials, buy your equipment. So you do that. I got a truck. I got about 5 ladders. I've got a trailer. I've got a sprayer, and we'll just call it miscellaneous, and that's all the other crap. Then I got a truck was 15 grand, ladders are about probably 1,500, trailer is about 1,000, sprayer is about 800, miscellaneous probably call about 800 or 1,000, just tools and everything else. This was just to get off the ground. This is toward the point where I could say, okay, now I can do this. So that was 15, 16, 17, 18, almost $20,000 right there. But fighting, what do you got? You have a car and a lawnmower, right?
Yep.
How much is your lawnmower?
No idea.
You used your dad's?
Yeah.
Still your dad's? For a nice push lawnmower or a walk behind, it's probably $300 or $400. And then you can make, you get a couple jobs, and all of a sudden you can make that back in the first month you're working, probably. You get 4 or 5 jobs. We're actually thinking about expanding to lawn care this summer, maybe. That kind of scares me. I had a guy offer me 12 lawns. And one of the guys I work for is like, I got 12 lawns that need mowed. They're his rental properties that he just wants to be done with. And I'm like, we'll see. Because with that, I want to do it right. I would buy another truck probably. I would buy a nice mower, which a nice commercial lawnmower is about 5-6 grand. A truck is a truck. I mean, I get some crappy beater for a couple $1,000, but a couple weed eaters, that sort of stuff, doing it right. I mean, we're still looking at about 10 grand there. And if I want to do it right, and I probably won't make 10 grand on 12 lawns and stuff. So especially, I don't want to ever mow a lawn. So it's kind of there's these, again, people will ask you to do stuff once you get in here. And I don't know, and again, I said in there, do what you're good at, and I don't know if I want to do that or not. But we'll see, maybe on a small scale. But yeah, I get 2 minutes, okay? I guess final thoughts on all of this. Try to pay for cash for as much as you can, okay? Cash. I have a credit card. The only credit card I've ever had in my life has been in the last 3 years, and it pays for all of my business expenses. I put all the lumber and materials and stuff goes on there. But I pay cash for everything else except for, if I can, now. I had student loans, yes. I bought a car, not for cash, But if you can pay as you go, especially now, and college is huge. You guys are going to spend an arm and a leg for college. But as much as you can do to get away from student loans, because again, I was 34 years old and finally got my student loans paid off, and I had a scholarship. I got half of my school paid for, and I still had that much. And that was when tuition was like $6 grand a year. Okay, so good luck when it comes to that stuff. After that, thanks for being a good audience. You guys are great.